The Championship is a hotbed of talent. Now more than ever, you're seeing talent from across the league who are destined to be playing at the top flight at some point. So with that being said, let's put a spotlight on those who could make the step up eventually. I'm Ryan Dilks from the second tier, and this is the most likely player at each Championship club to play in the Premier League. Before we get underway, I've got one rule. I'm not including loan players because that's cheating. So let's begin. Blackburn Rovers, Hayden Carter. Blackburn weren't the ideal club to start off this video with because they're not one who have flushed with options. However, Hayden Carter is the standout one for me. He's one of the most underrated centre-backs in the division and has got better and better each season since graduating from Blackburn's academy. He's so consistent, a rock at the back for Rovers and capable with the ball at his feet as well. He does turn 25 this month, so he's entering his prime years, but he could be a solid option for any bottom-end Premier League side. Bristol City, Jason Knight. Bristol City are one of those clubs with plenty of options for this list because they've got loads of young players who'll be hoping to play in the Premier League at some point. However, Jason Knight is the one for me who heads that list. His constant running in midfield means he'll be well liked by a lot of Premier League managers, as well as his versatility because he's able to play in just about every position on the pitch. But his work on the ball has also improved a lot this season, particularly carrying the ball forwards and creating chances. He's the definition of a team player, and at 23 years old, he's got loads of time to improve even further. Burnley, James Trafford. There were a few players I could have gone with for Burnley, who are obviously a club hoping to be back in the Premier League next season anyway. I nearly went with CJ Egan-Riley, who's having a fantastic season at centre-back for the Clarets, but I thought about it like this. If Burnley were to miss out on promotion this season, James Trafford would probably be the one I'd most expect to leave to go to the Premier League. He was the subject of a lot of interest in the summer, but Burnley managed to keep hold of him. He hasn't been one of the busiest goalkeepers in the Championship this season by any means, but 11 clean sheets is an achievement not to be sniffed at, and his distribution makes him an attractive keeper for modern football. Plus, he's only 22, which is very young really by goalkeeper standards, so you can almost guarantee that he won't have many upcoming seasons playing at this level for the foreseeable future. Cardiff City, Alex Robertson. This is one of the few signings from the past few years that Cardiff City have made which I've been impressed by, and he's shown since that he's an exciting prospect at the age of 21. Cardiff got him in the summer from Man City, and you can tell he's another unbelievable talent off the breadline from there. He had a great loan spell at Portsmouth last season and has turned out to be a superb signing for Cardiff. A lovely passer of the ball, good at winning the ball back in midfield as well. He's been a bright spark in a disappointing season for Cardiff so far and has a big future ahead of him. Coventry City, Norman Bissett. Many regular listeners of the podcast may have been expecting me to say Ben Sheaf here because I'm such a massive fan of his, but I've gone with Norman Bissett because at 20 years old, he's definitely got age on his side. Coventry spent £2 million to sign him in the summer, and while it's taken a bit of time for him to get going, he's very highly rated. So much so that he made his debut for the Belgian national team in November, and Newcastle have reportedly been keeping an eye on him in recent times, even though he's yet to really make his mark in the Championship. That's sure to happen at some point though, and he's definitely one to keep an eye on. Derby County, Aaron Cashin. Aaron Cashin nearly moved to the Premier League last year. Brighton were close to signing him, and he spent over 6 hours waiting at a Starbucks in Derby, waiting to find out if he was going to have his medical down south. But that move fell through, and he's been brilliant for Derby ever since. He's been a regular in the Derby team for the past 3 seasons now, even though he's only 23. He was the best defender in League One last season and has stepped up brilliantly to the Championship. He reads the game excellently, he's got loads of pace and is fearless. Put it this way as well, if Brighton are interested in you, you can't be that bad a player with their recruitment, can you? He'll get his chance at the top level at some point, I'm sure of that. Hull City, Charlie Hughes. Despite Hull having a bad season so far, they did make some exciting signings in the summer, none more so than Charlie Hughes. He was brought in from Wigan and was reportedly attracting interest from the Premier League prior to that, so it was a statement move by Hull to get him for £4 million in the summer. He's only just turned 21, but you would have never guessed it by looking at the sheer size of him and how good he is. He's an exceptional defender, great in the air and good with his distribution as well. I reckon a couple of years at Championship level and then he'll be a regular in the Premier League, and I think a future with England is a big possibility with him. Leeds United, Willie Gnonto. Leeds will be expecting to get promoted this season anyway, but if they do fail to do that, there's a few players who'll be hoping to make the step up to the Premier League next season anyway. Willie Gnonto is probably at the top of that list. He may seem like the obvious choice, but that's because his talent is there for all to see. He shouldn't have really ever dropped down to Championship level, let alone have 2 seasons here. Now, some may have said, well, why didn't you pick someone like Matteo Joseph, who's another very talented young player at Leeds? But Joseph is actually older than Gnonto, something which blows my mind because it feels like Gnonto has been around for so long, but he's still only 21 and has buckets of potential. Luton Town, Alfie Doherty. Luton have almost certainly cost themselves any chance of promotion this season with their terrible start. Having said that, there are still some players who'll be hoping to be back in the Premier League soon. Alfie Doherty is top of that list. He's been possibly the only Luton player to come out this season with any credit because he has been great. No player has created more chances per 90 than him in the Championship. He's continued his fantastic form from the Premier League, where he was also one of the standout players for Luton, and at 24 years old still has time on his side. Any Premier League club looking for a left wing back will surely consider him. Middlesbrough, Hayden Hackney. I will be honest, I'm surprised Hayden Hackney is still playing in the Championship. He's been one of the brightest young prospects in the division for a while, but doesn't seem to get linked with a move away. But Middlesbrough certainly won't be complaining. He's only 22, but plays like someone with a lot more experience because he's so intelligent. A brilliantly classy midfielder who's one of the best passers in the division and isn't afraid to carry the ball or stick a foot in either. He's a local lad, so would love to be playing in the Premier League with Borough in the near future, but failing that, he will surely be in the top flight at some point. Millwall, Romain Essa. This lad is only 19 years old, but has seriously been one of the standout players in the whole of the Championship so far this season. He's been highly talked about for Millwall's academy for some time now and has firmly established himself in the first team. He's a brilliant dribbler, quick, but also a hard worker off the ball as well. Plus he's scored more goals in the first third of this season than he had managed in his entire career prior to the summer. So he's now fulfilling his potential and it's exciting to see. Norwich City, Boya Saiyins. Norwich have plenty of young players who should go on to do great things with their careers, but based purely off his form this season, Norwich know they'll do well to hold on to Boya Saiyins for much longer. He's had one of the most ridiculous starts to a season we've ever seen at this level, 15 goals in 18 games. It's even crazier when you remember he only scored 6 in the entirety of last season. He's without a shadow of a doubt been the best player in the Championship so far, and even if he only shows 50% of this form for the remainder of the season, he'll be getting plenty of offers from Premier League clubs. This video is brought to you by our good friends at SBK. If you haven't heard of them yet, then where have you been? SBK's comprehensive range of markets and exclusive offers makes it the best place to bet on the Championship this season. Whether you're creating an accumulator or customising your bet builder, SBK has got you covered. Don't believe us? Sign up today and find out. Oxford United, Tyler Goodrum. Tyler Goodrum is straight out of the Oxford Academy and has gone from strength to strength since properly establishing himself in the first team 2 seasons ago. Despite only being 21, he's arguably been their standout player this season. He started every game for Oxford, can play on either wing and has caught the eye on plenty of occasions with his ability to dribble past players and scoring a few lovely goals as well. I'm not sure whether Oxford will stay up this season, but Goodrum's one I expect to be in the Championship next season, whatever the case, and may eventually find himself playing in the top flight. Plymouth Argyle, Morgan Whittaker. He might be the most obvious shout here, but that's because Morgan Whittaker is easily the most talented player on the books at Plymouth. He nearly moved to Lazio in Italy last January and probably would be playing top flight football somewhere right now if it wasn't for a drop off in form at the end of last season. Although his form did drop off along with Plymouth's, it's got to be said. Even then, 19 goals for last season isn't something to be sniffed at, and at 23 years old has so much potential. Whether Plymouth stay up this season or not, they know they'll struggle to keep hold of Morgan Whittaker over the next year or so, and the Premier League could be where he plays eventually if he finds his form from last season once again. Portsmouth, Terry Devlin. Portsmouth have quite an old squad, so I wasn't spoilt for choice when it came to picking players for this list from there. Terry Devlin is probably the one with the most potential though. He's a 21-year-old midfielder who moved from Glentoran in Northern Ireland in the summer of last year. He started a few games for Portsmouth at right back recently and has impressed. Whether he holds down that place in the team, only time will tell, but he's got the most room for growth out of all the Pompey players. Preston North End, Ali McCann. Again, Preston also have quite an old squad, making it quite difficult to pick any players for this list. Ali McCann's the standout option for me though. He actually turns 25 today on the day of this video going out, so happy birthday Ali. But he's also an underrated player in the Championship, great at winning the ball back, works extremely hard. He's been a regular in the Preston midfield for the past few years now, and probably needs to offer a bit more on the ball if he is ever going to be playing in the Premier League. But as I say, there aren't a lot of options at Preston. Queen's Park Rangers, Karamoko Dembele. I highlighted Karamoko Dembele as one of my signings of the summer in the Championship in a previous video on this channel, and he was doing great up until an injury which is going to keep him out until February. But don't get me wrong, Dembele still has bags of potential. You may remember him being tipped for massive things when he was at Celtic and playing in the first team at the age of 16, but he didn't play as much after that, and after a spell in France and in League One, he's now in the Championship with QPR and is still only 21. He was fantastic at Blackpool last season and has caught the eye early on at QPR before that aforementioned injury. They will be looking forward to getting him back because he's such an exciting attacker and has got his career back on track after a few years in the wilderness. Sheffield United, Harrison Burrows. Sheffield United will of course be hoping to be in the Premier League next season anyway, but they have plenty of players who are capable of making that step up. Harrison Burrows is top of that list for me. I rate this lad so highly, so much so that I tipped him to be a future England left back. He's got a brilliant left foot, is a superb crosser, and has scored a couple of really important goals already this season for the Blades. Out of all the players included in this video, he's amongst those I'm the most certain will be a regular in the Premier League in the near future. Sheffield Wednesday, JD Gassimer. He's still quite a raw player, but it's clear JD Gassimer has a lot of potential. The 21-year-old winger has caught the eye on plenty of occasions since joining from the PSG academy last summer. He loves running at defenders and is willing to work hard off the ball as well. He has work to do in terms of consistency and his overall output, but has bags of potential and could develop into a very good player over the next couple of years at Hillsborough. Stoke City, Bae Jun-ho. Stoke fans love Bae Jun-ho, and that's because he's one of the best young talents in the Championship. The 21-year-old South Korean really showed what he's all about in the second half of last season and won Stoke's Player of the Season. That led to him being linked with a move to some big clubs across Europe, but Stoke managed to keep hold of him, and while he's perhaps not made that step up that many were expecting so far this season, time is definitely on his side. He's got loads of ability and works hard off the ball as well. He is a very exciting young prospect. Sunderland, Joe Bellingham. Let's be honest, you're a bit sport for choice when it comes to Sunderland players you could pick for this list. You're genuinely getting towards double figures when it comes to Sunderland players who could be playing in the Premier League at some point. I narrowed it down to two players though, you can probably guess who they are, but I've decided to go with Joe Bellingham. He's got everything he needs to not only become a future Premier League player, but a regular at the highest level. Champions League, England, you name it. He's come on leaps and bounds this season, is much more physical than a player his age should be, but also has the technical ability to match. It also helps when you cut from the same cloth as Jude Bellingham. Sunderland will be well aware it's going to be a struggle to keep hold of him whether they get promoted or not this season. Swansea City, Ben Cabango. Perhaps a bit of a surprise one for some people, but I genuinely think Ben Cabango is one of the most underrated centre-backs in the division. If you're looking for a solid defender who's brilliant on the ball, this is your man. And I was surprised to see he's still only 24 because he's been a regular in the Swansea team now for years, so I just assumed he was older. But 24 means time is still very much on his side, and with Luke Williams as his manager, should continue to get better and better. Watford, Georgie Chakvetadze. Georgie Chakvetadze is a lovely player to watch and has had an incredible few months, of course including starring for Georgia at the Euros. But he's been pulling all the strings for Watford this season. He loves running with the ball, is a great passer, and is just a really intelligent number 10. He has been linked with a Premier League move in January, so don't be surprised if he's the first player in this video to be plying his trade in the top flight. And finally, West Bromwich Albion, Tom Fellows. Tom Fellows is another one who featured in my video from a couple of months ago of Championship players who could go on to play for England, and that's still very much the case right now. West Brom have struggled going forwards this season, but not much of the blame could fall to Tom Fellows, who's got the joint most assists in the division at the time of recording. He's a brilliant old-fashioned winger who loves running at defenders, and at 21, he is one of the most promising young talents in the division. So there you have it. Do you agree with my choice for your club? Let me know in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed watching the video, make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this. I've been Ryan Dilks from the Second Tier, and we'll be back again very soon.